Hey guys, I hope you're well. So we're back for another whole episode, or whatever you want to call it, of Locked In with Bree. And just to kind of recap, we've already talked about really the parts of communication. We've talked about different communication styles, okay? So today I really wanted to kind of jump into the meat of everything, which is conflict resolution. Because really, being able to solve conflicts is so essential. If you ever plan to really have any adult relationships in your life, to maintain a career or profession, to be able to have good interactions with your family, and just overcome struggles and challenges that you go through, you have to have the capability to resolve conflict in a way that's not going to ruin your life, okay? So that's kind of the basics of everything. Now, obviously, we talked a lot about the communication part of it because that is going to be one of the keys to resolving conflict in a healthy way. But we need to talk about exactly, number one, what is conflict, and how does communication help you resolve it in the right way, okay? So really, conflict itself is just a clash or a tension that's created from opposing ideas, opinions, thoughts, needs, whatever, right? It's basically two things coming together that don't necessarily line up. They're clashing against one another. So the conflict itself is not necessarily a bad thing, okay? Because we're all different. We're human beings. We've all had different experiences. So one thing that works for me or that is okay with me may not be okay with you out there who's watching right now, right? So conflict in itself is not a bad thing, and it's natural. However, the problem usually results in the way that these conflicts manifest themselves, okay? So let's say that a coworker and I disagree on our favorite flavor of ice cream. I know that's a silly example, but go with me. We disagree. I might say, no, butter pecan is everything. They may believe that Rocky Road is everything. Now, if we're able to have a simple debate and just don't agree and walk away, that's fine. There is a conflict in our interests and our preferences, but in no way did it cause any problems in our coworker relationship. However, if we were to start screaming at each other, berating each other, talking about each other's tastes and everything, at that point, we've kind of gone from the point of just a normal conflict or disagreement, right, to the place to where now we have gone into a full-blown argument. The whole thing has turned into something totally negative, all right? Because I think that's the big thing I want to express to you, is that conflict in itself is not negative, but what we have to do is handle it in a way that is not going to create more problems, okay? And so, like I said, we have to talk about how does communication actually help resolve conflict. What communication can do is, number one, get your point across to who you're talking about. And like we talked about in the first video, that's what we call the message, okay? The message is what you're trying to get the other person to understand, all right? Very important. Communication, when it comes to conflict, can also help you ask questions to make sure you thoroughly understand where they're coming from. Sometimes we'll find ourselves getting mad at what we think somebody else is saying, or how we think they feel, or what we think they're talking about, and we're actually way off base, right? So really, this will allow you to clarify exactly what the other person's feeling or thinking before you react, because a lot of the times the way we react is way over the top when you actually find out where that person really stands, okay? So those are two of the big things, or big ways that communication can help. Now, we have to talk a little bit about how communication can hurt conflict, okay? And that kind of relates back to last week's video, which is, depending on your communication style and the way that you operate, your communication may lead to bigger issues in the conflict. Because if I tend to be very abrasive or rough, or I tend to curse at people when I talk to them, and that's not like part of our normal, let's just say, because some people, they curse like sailors to one another, and it's fine, that's just how they talk to each other. But depending on your communication style, that can lead to misinterpretations when you're talking to people and make the conflict worse. If you're a very emotional person, well, I shouldn't say that, emotionally charged person, as in everything that you do is driven by emotion. So if somebody upset you or bothered you or there's a problem, if you're the type of person who right then and there, I'm going to address it, all charged up in this emotion, more than likely your communication is not going to be effective, because all they're going to be focused on is this over-the-top feeling, not so much exactly what you're really talking about, okay? So what we have to understand is, before you actually try to address the conflict, you need to, number one, understand what is the issue here. You know, am I more upset about the way they said something, you know, other things that have happened in the past, or like what's going on? Because if you're angry or upset about something that happened a long time ago that really has nothing to do with what's going on right now, you need to check yourself, okay? Because the conflict and the issues that are kind of stirring right now, you know, these things are not connected. And a lot of times, you know, we'll find ourselves getting mad because we haven't resolved things from the past, okay? So understand exactly what you're upset about. Number two, ask yourself, is this something that there is an actual solution to, right? Because it's one thing to have a conflict and it be something that we can reasonably come together with, but if it's something that really, there's just no changing it, you know, at that point, communication may not be helpful. And at the same time, you may have to understand that, hey, this is just going to remain a conflict. We're not going to agree, you know? And that's kind of the next part, you know, do you and this person have to agree? Is it really necessary for this conflict or this clash of opinions to be resolved? You know, my coworker and I, it's okay for us not to have the same, you know, preference for ice cream, you know? But when it comes to spouses, let's say, you know, deciding where you guys want to live long term, that's a conflict that at some point has to be resolved because you're gonna move, right? Where are you gonna go? Let's say with your children, you know, maybe you guys won't agree on who their boyfriend or girlfriend's gonna be. We probably need to talk about that, you know, versus whether they like their teacher or not. Agree to disagree. I mean, there's just various things, and you have to figure out, you know, exactly what is the problem. You know, what am I actually upset about? You know, is this a conflict that really can be resolved? And is it necessary for it to be resolved for us to maintain this relationship? And of course, the last part being that if I'm emotionally charged, if I am not sure that I'm really in a space to discuss the issues and just that issue, rather than attacking or name calling, then I may need to take some time and think about it before I go to the person, okay? So those are really my tips, right? You know, kind of starter tips for conflict resolution. A few things that you can do, you know, and think about before you even go into the conversation. If you're interested in this, I can definitely do a part 2 where I talk more about the actual conversation and how to bring something up that bothers you. But I wanted to save a little bit of that because that's more tied in with what we call boundaries, okay? And boundaries really talk about understanding exactly at what point do you draw the line between your wants and needs and somebody else's life, okay? So I really hope that that video helped you guys and really will be useful in the future for you when it comes to dealing with some conflict. You know, are there any areas in your life or with any particular people in your life that you're dealing with some conflict right now? Has it already turned negative, or is it still at the point where it's merely a disagreement or a differing of opinions and where you stand, okay? So once again, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you would like to see more videos like this, please like this video, comment what you would like me to talk about, as well as subscribe to my channel and hit the little alarm bell so you don't miss any of my videos that are going to be coming up. All right, guys? So thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.